kill brown people habit. And even if you ain't on the front line, when Master yell crunch time, you right back at it. Man, look at how you hustling backwards. At the end of the year, add up what they subtracted. 3 out of 12 months, your salary pay for that madness. Man, that's savage. What's left? Get a big ass plasma to see where they made Dan rather point the damn camera. Only approved questions get answered. Now stand your ass up for that national anthem.
And welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I'm joined this morning by the one and only Jeff Black. Jeff is a documentary filmmaker, writer, strategist, and peace activist who publicly speaks truth to power in the corrupt city hall of one Portland, goddamn Oregon. And for readers around the globe, his recent actions include the removal of a notorious pedophile ex-mayor's publicly displayed photo, later ceremonially burned in an act of civil disobedience, and exposing city crimes in the den of terrorists that was once Portland City Council chambers. Jeff Black, welcome to the show. How are you doing this morning, brother?
I'm doing great, Steve, man. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the dramatic intro. It's true. Portland's a really messed up place right now. It's an interesting city, and I think, you know, for the stuff that you do for the groups that you work with, talking about free speech, talking about civil rights, talking about governmental overreach. You know, this Portland's a microcosm of what's going on across this country and across this globe. We even have our own, tiny dictator here named Ted Wheeler. We have a mayor and a form of government that allows rampant corruption and a lack of accountability here at the local level. And so glad to be on. Documentary that you referred to is called Moose. It's a documentary about police murder, which happens here in Portland a lot. We've got a police force that's racist and classist and trigger happy, and has a long history of killing unarmed people, and particularly people in mental health crises that are obviously under the influence of drugs or alcohol, obviously having a mental health crisis where they're not able to respond to police commands in a way that a person who is in control can. And the challenge that we have in this society, and throw it back to you, is that we all know we're in difficult times, that mental health care, that healthcare in general, that housing and food, there's a lot of scarcity. So there's a lot of people walking the streets that aren't at their best, that maybe aren't getting the medical and health and dental care that they need. And just this week, we lost a young man named Coben Henriksen, and he was a mentally ill man. He was my age. He was 51 years old, but he had a father, he had a family, a lifetime of mental illness and struggling and being on the streets. He didn't have to die, right? And so, if the reason I'm here today isn't about me, and it's not even really about the film. The reason we do this is because our neighbors are dying. And make no mistake, these lives matter. Coben Henriksen was a mentally ill man. He was loved every bit as much as you love your own children. He was cared about. He was valuable. His life mattered. And the problem we have with our government, the problem we have with our police forces, they're acting like our lives don't matter. And I have a huge fucking problem with that, because these lives matter. These families matter. Andre Gladden, Moose Hayes, John Elefritz, Bradley Morgan. I'm gonna keep going on some names here because I need to. Terrell Johnson, okay, Coben Henriksen this week. These are losses that ripple throughout families and generations and communities, and it's intolerable. And I'm really happy, Steve, we're going to show the trailer to the film, because the trailer to the film and Moose itself is about the voices of the families of victims of police murder.
We are gonna get to this trailer here in a second. I want to kind of set the stage here a little bit, because for whatever reason, the first 3 or so minutes of this broadcast were set to private or unlisted, even though I had already set it to public twice. That's how YouTube does me. If you're currently watching the show, please go ahead and hit the like button, share the stream, get it going. I do want to thank everybody for showing up today. Again, this is Jeff Black. Jeff is an activist and a filmmaker and a rabble-rouser, in particular. We are going to show the trailer to Moose, which is a documentary that you guys is it shot or is it in the process of being shot? Like, what, the Indiegogo, is that for distribution or are you still trying to finish the picture?
Right. Yeah. The film's completely shot. It's in the final editing process for the director's cut and the sound mix. So we've got, but when you do a trailer, and like I said, we'll see this, in order to make a trailer like that, the editor and our editor has done some remarkable work and actually won some Oscars for his work before. And then director Hilton Ariel Ruiz out of New York is a very accomplished filmmaker. I'm not a filmmaker, never made one before. I was the executive producer, the writer, created this, and my personal advocacy, spawned this film with my friend, movie director Hilton Ariel Ruiz. But yeah, the editor is the one that really makes the film along with the director. And so I kind of sit in wonder and watch their work too. So it's all completely filmed and shot. We're probably about 30 to 60 days from completing it. And the reason we did this Indiegogo was to get final help with the expenses of the sound mix and everything else. We have completely funded this and done this entire project by ourselves for 2 years. So we're going to do it one way or the other, whether we get support financially from the community or not. We've gotten some great support, some great help, and so much love. There's tens of thousands of people that want to see this film, and that's really all it's about. Our only goal from the first day we started making this film was to make a great film, was to share these voices of the families of victims of police murder, because the media lies, right? I mean, your show, Steve, the reason we're here this morning is that if people turn on their TVs, they're gonna see about 80 to 95% propaganda and lies.
Bullshit.
And what
highly
Moose, maybe
filtered, highly cultured.
Exactly.
Bullshit.
So what Moose is about is about allowing these people to use their own voices and tell the truth, and tell the truth of what happens when the state murders our family members, and when the state extrajudicially, and let's remember that word, extrajudicially takes the life of our family members, because it sends people. Imagine losing the people that you love the most. Imagine losing someone that you love the most. Everything about your life turns into a fight for justice and accountability. And the problem is when the state takes your life, especially with a police officer, they use their district attorneys and city attorneys and the power of the state to continue to victimize families and continue to justify their heinous crimes, even when the cases are reviewed and the videos are reviewed and guilt and blame is assigned. The state gets away with it every time. There's no accountability. So,
so everything
this has to be seen.
Everything I learned about Portland, I learned from Jello Biafra. As I said before we started the show, and something that I do want to get into, I was 20 years ago a homeless street kid in Portland. But I'm going to brave the copyright strike here to play this story, because this story was told 1 year after I was born. I'm 41. This is from 1979. Got to do this.
I want to tell you a story about the last time I was in Portland. The night before we played at the Long Goodbye, I was walking on the street about 10:30 at night. A lot of people go to bed around here at 10:30 at night. And well, I was walking along and suddenly these jocks in this bright blue pickup drove up. They had KC lights, tractor tires, everything but the CB. It was a life-size Hot Wheels car for some dumb rich kid, right? Well, They drove up to me and they yelled what dumb rich kids usually yell. Hey, faggot! And showered me with some water. So, I stood there thinking, what a bunch of fuckheads, and picked up a rock. Now, I waited, walked down about a block to where the Kentucky Fried Chicken is, on Burnside, and sure enough, they drove around again. They said, hey, faggot, where's the nearest McDonald's? I said, I don't know, and they squirted me again. So I threw the rock and put a nice-sized dent in their giant Hot Wheels car. They screeched to a halt in the parking lot of some department store's name I don't remember. It's up the street from Fred Meyer. And they got out their clubs, and they ran after me. Yeah, we're gonna kill you, goddamn faggot! We're gonna kill you, motherfucker! So I got in the phone booth by the Kentucky Fried Chicken on Burnside, held my arm and legs straight out like this so they couldn't open the door to the phone booth. So they began charging the phone booth, beating on it with their club. Yelled, we're gonna kill you, motherfucker! We're gonna kill you, you goddamn faggot! I just looked at them. So, there was a crowd gathering by this time, and these kids were standing nearby, and they said, ooh, look at him, he's insane! Thought, aha! Here's my way out! I yelled at them, take me to a mental hospital right away! I want to be put away, please put me away! Come on, call the cops and put me away! Please put me away now! They said, alright, faggot! We're calling the police! So they called the police. The cop comes out, and I go, my savior, I'm away from these jocks. He opens up the door, get out of there, you! Throws me up against the car, frisks me, shoves me in the back. Then he goes over to the jocks. Now what happened here? Looks like we're going to have to take him to jail, but we gotta have the full story first. So the jocks, who had an ace in the hole. Ace in the hole, take down on the base, a little bit down on the base. Yeah, ace in the hole, they go, well, goddamn, this motherfucker put a dent in my truck. It's my $8,000 truck, right? So I got my club and went out and wanted to kill him. I want to kill him, let me kill him, goddamn it, let me kill him. So the cop made them go home. And he drove me home. And he confiscated their club and my rock as further evidence. And I thought, so this is Oregon, huh? Tolerant Oregon.
I love that story for like 15,000 different reasons, because when I first got up to Oregon, I'd lost my ride at it wasn't a Grateful Dead show, it was a Further Festival show. It was after Jerry Garcia had died, and it was at Fiddler's Green in Denver, Colorado. If you've ever been to that venue, it's a pretty fucking cool venue. But at any rate, I got stranded. And I had a backpack and one other like hippie kid that I was traveling with, and it was just the two of us, and the kid's like, I know someone in Portland. If we can just get to Oregon, we'll be fine. You know.
Sure you will. Absolutely.
So here we are in Denver. We end up getting a ride to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And we're at a truck stop in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And the exact same, or the relatives of the exact same jocks that had been accosting Jello Biafra in 1979 showed up at this truck stop in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And they want to kill us because we look like dirty traveling fucking hippies. At the same time, a U-Haul pulls up to gas up. 3 rave promoters get out of it. The U-Haul is full of boxes of bottled water. And they're like, we're going to Oregon. You can ride in the back. So for 2.5 days, I was in the back of this U-Haul that was cracked open a little bit at the bottom so some air could flow through it. with this other hippie, of course there was a dog. I forgot to mention the dog, but there was a dog. The dog almost fell out of the fucking moving U-Haul like 18 times. We had to tie his leash off to the corner of the inside of the truck so he'd stop trying to escape. Brilliant dog. For 2.5 days, we're traveling and like sleeping on and sitting on these boxes of bottled water. Not very comfortable. And that's how I arrived in Portland, Oregon, 100% penniless, sore as fuck, from sleeping on these boxes of bottled water. And the dude that the kid knew was a guy called Yogi, who lived right by Reed College. I think it was Reed College. Right on campus there. And we had floor space in the middle of a like sort of decent looking house, but the house was a grow house. And he was an obvious pot grower, so we felt really fucking sketched out about...
Right, this is long prior to legalization.
Oh, yeah.
This is when you were involved in a felony. This is when felonies were going on.
Yeah. This is probably 2000 or 2001. It was right before I came out.
On that note, Steve, let us just celebrate some freedom, shall we?
Oh,
come on! This is ridiculous, right? This drug war has got to. I mean, the drug war has been an abomination for the United States. It's been a racist abomination. It's been a criminal justice abomination. It's been a justice abomination, right? This drug war has excused the police state that now is so far up our ass that they're literally climbing up our ass at traffic stops, right? In Tennessee, a cop is literally searching a black man's anus by the side of the road. This is how far we've fallen in this search for drugs, right? Humanity doesn't matter. What matters is drugs. We're not going to allow you to control your own body or your own brain or think your own thoughts or whatever else. We've got some big problems here. And when people hear drug war and people hear law enforcement and people see the cops celebrating whatever victories they claim to have in keeping people from doing what they've done since time started, you got to know that's bullshit, man. The drug war is just an abomination. It's so racist. It's been used to perpetuate slavery and to perpetuate racism in this country. For God's sakes, what an awful thing. So here, let's smoke some pot on air and just show people that, for fuck's sake, maybe this is a horrible choice, but you know what? It's my choice, right? Beautiful.
Full disclosure, and I'll probably take another little handful towards the end of the broadcast, but right before we went live, I ate a small amount of mushrooms, because I do believe that they're beneficial for things like PTSD and depression and general focus and overall concentration. And I think it shows the height of late stage capitalism, where the argument being advanced for psilocybin mushrooms to be legalized is that they will, in small doses, increase the productivity of your average day-to-day worker, therefore generating more income for their bosses while they're paying out of pocket for the product that increases their performance.
And this is also a naturally occurring fungus in the world, right? And so conversely, making it illegal is problematic, just like making these other things illegal or problematic, because the state doesn't have that control. They're not in our homes. They're not in our bodies. They're not going to do these things. And interestingly enough, I know you're in California, Steve, but I think we should note that I believe the state of Colorado has now legalized mushrooms at some level.
State of Colorado, city of Oakland. Oakland was I believe, the first city to do it. And then I think there's one community in Oregon that has decriminalized simple possession of psilocybin mushrooms under an ounce, too.
Yeah, I mean, again, people need to remember, this isn't about whether you approve or disapprove of people getting high, whether you approve or disapprove of people using drugs, or even whether you'd want your kids or yourself or your spouse to use drugs, right? This is about personal freedom This is about even personal safety, because in their efforts to save us from ourselves, what is the state doing to us? How many lives has law enforcement taken to protect us from ourselves, right? How many people have died? How many tens of thousands, millions of people have died and languish in jail and prison because they're saving us from ourselves, Steve?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know,
I mean, really, let's go back to it. Drug use is not a crime, right? And so we've criminalized people who are having issues, who are addicted, and who, you know, and every part of society faces this, but the rich don't get prosecuted. The people in their homes and their nice cars can use their drugs and abuse drugs and have problems in their life and survive. When you're on the street, when you're poor, when you're black, when you're Latino, you don't get to make those mistakes. The police will hunt you down. They will search you at 3 times the level, even here in Portland, Denver. Almost 3 times the level. It's like about 4% of the time they're going to search you if you're a white guy, and it's about 11 if you're black or Latino.
And not only that, but you got to be...
They're going to find it, and they're going to criminalize you, and they're going to ruin your life.
You've got to be the wrong kind of poor if you're white to get searched in
yes,
Portland.
You do.
So there's...
Or you got to be difficult like me. You got to be one of those guys that just doesn't play by the rules, damn it.
Yeah.
And they got to get hard on you.
Yeah, or you've got to look like your vocation is selling drugs, and then they'll search you if you're poor and white. But other than that, no, you more or less get a pass, and that's universal across the country. The drug war is what made me leave Indiana. I thought, you know, how long can this misdemeanor charge stick around? I'm not going to face this charge. And then the Patriot Act got passed, and 13 years later, I ended up doing a month in Hamilton County Jail over a fucking misdemeanor warrant from 1995, 1996, something like that. Yeah, it fucking insane. I was in Bloomington, Indiana, where Indiana University is, and this is the reason I never watched an episode of Frasier since. Frasier was on, and my door got kicked in, and it was city, state, county sheriffs, and 2 FBI agents and a couple of dogs that were fucking blasted my door open and came in guns drawn. It's just me and the chick I was dating at the time. We're not necessarily wearing clothes. And they've got guns pointed at us. We kicked a kid out of our house who was crashing on the couch, and he was not enough help. And too much hindrance, so we had to ask him to leave. And he got busted with fucking some weed on him, and he's a black kid in southern Indiana, so we were the physical embodiment of the last people that were mean to him. So he's like, they're selling hella weed. This is where I got it. Fucking kingpin, go get them, you know. They were 3 days early. I already had negotiated and was waiting on a delivery of a substantial amount of cannabis, and the police were early for that. And what they got was remember those postal scales that people used to weigh like fucking short eighths of weed out of back in the 80s and shit like that? They found a pair of those and a bunch of bongs. And because they couldn't charge like a one-hitter's worth of weed, so they charged me for possession of an ounce or less.
Paraphernalia.
Reckless.
Drug
reckless possession of paraphernalia, Jeff Black. That was my charge. Reckless possession. And I was like, motherfucker, all the glass is in a fucking pouch. There's nothing reckless about this paraphernalia. It's been stored properly. Like, it's not haphazard. You had to go into a closet to find it. There's nothing reckless about it. And they're like, well, we don't have a charge that says you own too many.
Look, man, we know. We have video evidence and countless stories about drugs being planted on individuals. Again, this
Happened to me in Athens, Georgia. I did 3 months in Clark County Jail in fucking Georgia for possession of 6 hits of ecstasy, a Class D felony. And those 6 hits of ecstasy were not in my pocket until that cop slammed me against the wall and started rifling through my shit.
I know people that have lost custody of their children because they had an oxycodone in their pocket that was prescribed for them, but they didn't have the bottle. I mean, shit, this stuff is out of control, what the state can do to you if they get your hands on you. And Anthony wrote in here about New Jersey and weed and the criminalization of it. And it's absolutely right. I mean, here's a fact. I think New Jersey's on the list of states that is on the cusp of legalization. But here's the bottom line. The New York City Police Department and New York do not want marijuana to be legal because it's their gateway. Marijuana is the drug that allows them to violate and search black people ad nauseum, to use their drug-sniffing dogs ad nauseum, and to criminalize anyone and everyone that they come across. And if they lose marijuana as a criminal substance, they openly admit they can't do the shit they've been doing. The drug war has enabled them to turn our civil rights into garbage. It's been this excuse, and now they've got us where there's a war on the cops. Carrie Welder did a video this week. I know you know who she is, right? A really sharp gal, independent, does videos. She's not into politics, I'll tell you, right? She's very suspect of both parties, as many people are these days. She did a video about something that I've talked about for a long time, which is cops don't die from felony violence. It's a very, very rare occurrence. Somewhere on the order of 50 cops a year die intentionally from felony violence. That's a extremely small number.
But how many more cops and this is an important point, how many more cops a year die because they eat their gun?
Yes, absolutely. The suicides, well, I mean, this is a fact, Steve. The suicides for cops are multiples of that number. The suicide for cops, for prison guards, for all of these types of jobs are huge and far exceed the danger of their job, because it's a miserable fucking job, and they know what they are. Cops know what they are.
They're
not stupid.
Point.
They're in a gang. They're in a brotherhood. They're in a gang. They kill people. They know what they are. Their wives know what they are. Cops have more domestic abuse, more drug and alcohol problems, more psychological problems. This job, if they're not messed up taking the job, the fact that they came from the military, I mean, that's who's getting these jobs now.
Yep.
People who have carried guns in the past, and they're willing to do it now, even though they know they're joining a shitty gang.
The
right?
transition from community peace officer, which still was racist as fuck in its origin. Go listen to KRS-One, motherfucker. The transition from that to paramilitary unit that exists to maintain status quo and defend private property owners. Like that.
Yes.
When they got the MRAVs, when they got all of the surplus military gear, when they started hiring soldiers first, not people who lived and worked in the community.
And Steve, they became soldiers, right? I mean, this militarization, and we got to go back again. Don't call this. You can be whatever political party you want, but don't call this a Trump issue. Don't call this a Republican issue. This racism, this criminal justice system, this horrific police state has been going on. The Clinton administration started the super predators. Ferguson and Standing Rock happened under Obama. The deaths from police, law enforcement,
Joey fucking B. Joe Biden made his bones on that 1994 crime prevention
on this super predator bullshit. And super predator wasn't just racist, remember?
No.
Super predator was targeted at children.
Yes.
At children of color. Like, so this is this week, Steve. The subject, our movie's called Moose, and the title comes from the name of a.
You know what? Let me go ahead and pull up that up the trailer.
We can pull up Moose. So Moose was a person. Moose is a person named Quantus Hayes, and he was a 17-year-old young man, black, who was murdered by the Portland police, gunned down, unarmed, on his hands and knees, crawling forward, receiving conflicting orders from the police, and he was shot down 3 times with an AR-15. They never saw a gun on him. He had no gun. They shot an unarmed 17-year-old kid, and the city just this week, Steve, in court, actually had the audacity in the family's civil rights lawsuit to allege that Moose, a 17-year-old young black man, and his mother were responsible for this, in some ways, for this police murder, because he should have been a better kid and she should have been a better mother.
That's the defense.
Right. Look, and this is the city of Portland, Steve. I mean, this is a government in my name, in the name of people saying here who are advancing a racist argument in court. These people need a resignation. And one thing I'm going to talk about after this movie is they're actually having a protest this coming Wednesday. They're going to walk out of City Hall. They're going to address the city of Portland and this latest police murder. Donna Hayes, the grandmother of Moose Hayes, who you're going to see in this film, who's a hero of mine, is going to be speaking, as is Philip J. Wolf, who's a candidate for city council, deaf man. So I want to talk about that this coming Wednesday, because I want anybody in Portland to come down and join them. I can't, because I'm a criminalized motherfucker, but other people can.
All right, everybody who's hanging out with us right now, here's the trailer for the film Moose, and the Indiegogo link is at the top of the screen, and you should, if you have the ability, donate to the completion of this film.
Yeah, it would be a huge thing. This film is important to the world.
You see people get killed in Oregon don't reach other states, because Oregon like to keep their dirt to themselves. I believe Moose, the movie, the documentary, will bring his name out further. People will know what was done to my grandson, to Barbara Ellifrit's husband, to Christopher Kalanji, to Bodie Phelps, to Andre Gladden, to Bradley Morgan. And the list goes on. It's not costing a whole lot. It just needs some money to get it going. And it's going to be worth it when it's done. We're grieving, and we'll probably be grieving for the rest of our lives.
Oregon has a history of racism going back to when the state was established. Its constitution actually prohibited minorities from living here. It was built by a white supremacist majority, and as such, it's taken a long time for them to try to face the reality of where they've been and what they need to do moving forward.
The challenge here is that the cop watchers are people that keep us safe. When the camera's on, the police behave. This is a fact.
I still can't tell you why I knew something happened, but there's just something in my gut that tells me something's wrong.
How do you think he made it from inside the house to this spot right here where we believe he was killed?
He was called Moose because he looked like Bullwinkle when he was born. He was a very ugly little baby. He grew into his features.
So you're going to see Eli Ritchie, who's being persecuted by the city of Portland for filming police legally, including the police chief, who by statute is on duty 24/7, 365.
And then you arrested me for a probation violation to find out that I wasn't on probation, and then you said that I interfered.
What we have going on right now in Portland is a cover-up, and the first line of battle is the cop watchers.
Take this phone, leave it on speaker, so they can witness it.
John Ellifritz was inside City Team Ministries shelter, experiencing a mental health crisis, when 8 officers stormed into the homeless shelter with their assault rifles and weapons drawn and a police-trained canine dog.
We just heard a couple of days ago that The 8 police officers that shot and killed him have been exonerated.
Zaldivar was born in Israel.
We absolutely need to be in the streets.
What's amazing to me is you have a Department of Justice report, you have a settlement agreement in place, and you have a city and police department that, from our view, hasn't changed.
That is just heavy shit, man. And it's one of those things that like, because I was there, I was a street kid there, I remember how the cops were 20 fucking years ago, and I'm a white kid. Like, I know it's exponentially worse when you're a person of color because I've watched it with my own fucking 2 eyes.
Yeah, and you know what, Steve? It's so crazy. I'm sitting here thinking about the victims and the names. I want to just throw some stuff at you real quick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the victims, because again, these are real people. And the reason I made this movie is I fell in love with their families. And there's a reason I fell in love with their families. That when really horrible things happen to people, really bad tragedies, hopefully our audience hasn't experienced too many of those things in their lives. But what people find is that many or most people in their lives drift away when deaths and griefs and murder happens, when the police is putting your family in the paper and your loved one in the paper. People fade away, families fall apart. The tragedy, as I told you, is just exponential. And so Coben Henriksen, this young man that was murdered in the middle of the street by Portland police this week. We're, again, protest this Wednesday at City Hall. You saw me being arrested at City Hall for free speech. You heard my skull hitting the marble floor there as they took me
Smack. That was brutal, man.
Yeah.
By the way, like that, I'm sorry that happened. I've had my ass kicked by the police before. I had my was grabbed by my hair and ground into the fucking gravel, and then had my hair pulled back up in a can of mace, emptied into my eyeballs from about 5 inches away.
Right. These guys aren't even police. These are G4S. These are G4S rent-a-cops. They're security mercenaries, and City Hall has violated my rights. They've criminalized me for free speech, for speaking about police murder, for calling out the city attorney and the mayor and the police chief, because these are all cover-ups. These are all lies. I want to tell you again, Coben Henriksen. There's a common thread here that's going to blow you away. This week, murdered in the middle of the street. About 13 minutes after the call came, they knew this was a terribly mentally ill man. He was wrapped in a blanket. He was 51 years old. And just a week ago, he was suicidal. This was flagged as a suicidal man standing in the middle of the street. And the Portland police still showed up. And one of them, it only takes one of them had an AR-15 and an itchy trigger finger. And they gunned down a man who was having a mental health crisis in the middle of the street. No hostages, no guns, no possible threat to any able-bodied police officer. And they gunned him down because they said he had pocket knives on him. We're murdering people with guns because we have pocket knives. And as I said to my friends, I don't know that anybody's done this research, but again, we talked about the fact that maybe about 50 cops die a year from lethal violence. I bet somewhere around 0 of those are killed by pocket knives. Right? so
odds are
these cops, most of them are killed by cars and guns and really big, really booby traps, ambushes, really bizarre shit. It's like stranger danger in this real world. It's these corner cases. Yeah, man, there's enough of them that crazy things happen. There is no war on cops. Nobody's going after cops. Fighting a cop is suicide. They will turn you into a grease spot. That's why I said these.
Look,
come on.
The first time I got my ass kicked by the cops was at the WTO protests in 1994. I don't know if you remember those or not. Up in
well, hell yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, I can take this motherfucker, and not thinking. at all. That like 15 of his friends wouldn't just swoop
No, man,
in
it's a
and
gang.
fucking stomp the shit out of me. And that's exactly what happened. And yet, like, I still show up to those events. I tell people all the time, and if you're listening right now, if you're going to go to a protest, take 40 or 50 bucks and your ID, and that's it. Nothing else. Do not have any object in your pocket that could be considered a weapon. Leave your phone with a friend who is not going. Because when you get arrested, every little bit of data on your phone belongs to that police department, and it belongs to whatever law enforcement agency they want to send it to when they build a case on you. Because if you're getting arrested at a protest, chances are there's an extra little fucking notation in your file where they start building a case on you. Sorry to cut you out. It's just like
no, it's good points. You know, again, you know, so what they're doing in all of this is targeting and criminalizing people that stand, and civil disobedience, peaceful civil disobedience, is going to make you a target, and you know, America's going to progress against these issues when we get tougher and we do this in large groups, because they can't target us in the tens of thousands like they do in the ones and twos, right? They don't. The system has to be broken. I do want to go back to Coben Henriksen, right? So I described to you, like, they knew this was a mentally ill man who was suicidal, and the cops show up and murdered him. Coben was not from this area. Coben had been homeless and I think moving around his family's from out of the area. Andre Gladden was a blind black man who was murdered just about a year ago, and the police framed him by alleging that he took and wielded the policeman's knife. He was a visitor from Sacramento and had only been in Portland visiting his father and some other relatives here for a few weeks. People come here to visit, and our police murder them. This is insane. I mean, all of these different folks that are being murdered, a lot of them aren't even from Portland. I mean, they are people that are homeless, that are coming here, that have family and visit, and apparently we must have one of the worst, most violent police forces in the country, because when they come to Portland, they don't leave, right? And this is
like Portland and a lot of the counties in what. I'm going to give you a little history lesson here if you're not familiar with the state of Jefferson and what it was and what it still is to this day. The state of Jefferson was an area that covered a good chunk of Northern California, I think up into right around Portland or the state line of Washington State. And they wanted it to be a racially pure state. It was named after Thomas Jefferson. Flash forward a couple hundred years, the exact same principles that defined the creation of the state of Jefferson are codified into the law enforcement agencies that live in these areas. Portland is one. I know at the beginning of the documentary, of the trailer that we watched, it talks about Oregon was supposed to be a white state. Like
that's right. There were sundown laws. There were all kinds of written laws that made black people illegal in different ways. And there was a famous one where the Harlem Globetrotters, I believe, were refused. Their bus was not allowed to drive through Medford or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is some historic stuff. But again, let's go back to what in their tyranny, in this militarization, and if people ever want to learn more about this, one of the things I do on Twitter is I constantly write and teach about police and militarization, and it's all fact-based, right? It's all evidence-based. Militarization of police these guns, this armaments, none of this, it does not increase public safety. These are facts. Just like we know the criminal justice system is racist, we know for a fact that militarization does not make you or me or America safer. It doesn't even make the cops safer. What it does is make them a militarized force. And Steve, we know, who are the police endorsing for the next president of the United States, Steve? Here's a quiz. Who's the police union? Who are they endorsing full-throatedly and with great and vocal support? Who do they support for president, Steve?
Go ahead.
Donald J. Trump for lifetime dictator.
Yeah.
Police love him. The sheriffs love him. The police chiefs love him. He's got the formal endorsement from the police union. So
Not
what
only
else,
that, but
what
he's
else,
on
what
camera.
else does America need to know? The worst dictator in the history of the United States, the most vile man probably ever to hold public office in the history of the United States, has full-throated endorsement today from America's police union. Fuck those guys, really.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jeff. It's we got about 10 minutes left before this hour is up, and I'm pretty sure that Sofia Zaldivar is going to join me for a little bit. I'm gonna have to cut the second hour short because I've got stuff to do before a special Chelsea Manning birthday edition of the Free Assange Vigil, where we're going to be joined by Sofia and Ron Placone and Jason Burmis over on Action for Assange's channel. So I hope that everyone will just get comfy on their Sunday and move over there around 12:30 our time. In that 10 minutes, is there any, like, because I could go on about our police state and how we got here and what it means just in terms of us walking around as supposedly free people. And is there anything in particular you would like to highlight before that? And then please let everyone know where they can find you. And if the audience has a question or two, we can try and get to that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to highlight the fact that all of this is about your civil rights. All of this is about your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors. Maybe you don't have any children. This is about whether we have a livable country or not. This police state can and will grab anybody. None of these families thought police murder would happen in their family. None of them thought that the mentally ill family member that they love would be a victim of this heinous crime, would be caught in this web of violent and brutal and out of control police officers that feel the need to kill. And right, these police are coached to go out every day, as Carrie Welder said on her video, like they're told there's a war on the cops. And so I guess my message is people need to know the truth. Stop buying this lie about law enforcement. Law enforcement is called selective enforcement. They're choosing who to apply laws to. And it's not the people with money, and it's not the people that are white, and it's not the people with power. So it's selective enforcement. And so when we sit here with whatever privilege or life we have and we judge people that are being criminalized, you must know that two people are standing next to each other doing the same thing, and these are choosing which one to criminalize, whose life to ruin, whose father to take away, whose son to murder. That's not America, right? We are supposed to be equal. We're supposed to have equal protection under the law. Civil rights matter. These lives matter. There's a trial coming up for the murder of Brian Babb by the Eugene police from a armored turret of a Bearcat. They shot a man who served his country, was 49 years old, in his own doorway, and have attempted to frame him and misconstrue the fact that he was in his own property. He was having a mental health crisis, and he told them to fucking leave. He didn't want them there. He didn't need them there. And they blew his brains out through his eye socket. Right? And so this family actually has their day in court coming in Eugene, Oregon, in federal court on February 18th. So I'd like everybody to keep a thought out and keep their eye out for the Babb family. Andrew Stroth, who you saw on behalf of the Ellifritz family in the film, is representing the Babb family. And I hope they roundly kick the city of Eugene's ass, because unfortunately, Steve, money is the scorecard here. None of these cops ever go to jail. None of these cops are ever criminalized. I mean, the one that walked in and shot both Gene in his own apartment gets a hug from the judge in tears, right? This is just vomitous racism endemic in this country. And so people need to know the truth. They need to talk the truth. When they hear their friends and neighbors and family talking about law enforcement and glorifying this job and glorifying the need for militarization and this, alleged war on the police, people have to call bullshit, because it's your family, it's your family member that is going to be a victim of this shit. And when it touches your family, I'm telling you, that's why people got to see Moose. It's a nuclear bomb on an extended family, on a community. When the state takes a life, it's the cruelest, most vicious fate. And God, stand with these families, man. Stand with these families. The worst happened to them, and they're all alone. They won my heart. They'll win your heart too. I swear they will.
Yeah, that's such an important point about what happens to families when and this happens just when death or injury occurs in the course of someone's work. They turn into pariah. It happened to me. I fell 18 feet off of a roof. I landed on the concrete. My ankle literally blew out of my body. I spent 3 months in a wheelchair. The number of friends that I had, like, from the number of people that came and visited me in the hospital to the number of people that saw me 3 months later when I was still in a wheelchair and I was sleeping on a couch, not in my bed, because I had an external fixator cast with rods sticking out of my leg. I couldn't sleep in a regular bed because I would roll over, and oh my God, the pulling would it would make me scream like a fucking little girl. It was really uncomfortable. So I had to sleep in a couch. But yeah, dude, like, your friends don't come around. Your family members contact you less and less because they don't want to hear that you're in pain. Nobody wants to hear that someone's suffering. So you tune it out. I think
it's too much. It's too much. They're seeing their family members in the paper, and the media jumps on and prints police press releases as if they're fact, and they smear and criminalize these people after their death. I mean, and again, it's not just the outside world. These nuclear families a lot of times fall apart. A lot of times they fall into homelessness during this. They're unable to work. I mean, again, what we should have here in the United States is a handful of police killings per year where the person was an imminent mortal threat to the community, the police. They were firing their gun. There were bullets and fire coming out of their gun toward police, and something had to be done. 99% of these police murders in the United States do not need to happen, and we know this because other countries do it. Other countries do not have to execute their mentally ill and people on the street, and they don't have to execute people that committed crimes on the street. That's what the justice system is for, to give them a day in court, to see, to let them be innocent until proven guilty. Extrajudicial executions end everything. They end a life that by fact, by law, that person's innocent when they've been murdered by the police. They've been convicted of nothing. So people have to stand. They have to call these things out. They have to know every time they see a story in the newspaper and on TV about a police murder that it's a police press release designed to smear the family and the victim, and to make sure that the public does not have empathy for the person they murdered in cold blood that did not have to die. Okay? So life matters, right? All these right-wingers and religious Bible thumpers and all this bullshit that want to run around and tell you life matters. I'm fucking telling you life matters. Right? These were human beings. They had families. They had fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers and children. And we killed them with the power of the state, and then we used the state to persecute them. This is the nastiest thing in the world, and it has to stop, Steve.
I agree with that 100%, Jeff. I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Right on. People can find me at Jeff Thomas Black. Google it. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I write about police murder and police violence and police brutality and civil rights, because this is virtually all that matters, right? The politicians are going to play their game. You got to survive it, right? There's two different sides of this, and surviving, it's going to require our civil rights. right? Or thought crimes, or planted drugs, or anything that somebody doesn't like is gonna end with you in the gulag. We don't want that.
Normally when the camera is not positioned here, you can see an ACAB sticker on the back of my laptop that of course stands for All Cops Are Bastards. And it was given to me by a friend of mine who's in a one percenter outlaw biker gang with their colors on it. So fuck it, if you wanna, like, if anyone had any questions at all where I stood on that, now you fucking know. Jeff, thanks again for showing up. Please go watch that trailer for the documentary Moose. Donate to the Indiegogo. Help them get this film finished and distributed nationally. I do think it is incredibly important. And now it is my honor to introduce to the show for the first time Sofia Zaldivar. Am I saying that right? Because I fucking suck at names, dude. I really do.
It's okay. Hello. Sorry, I wasn't sure when to come on, but
oh no, it's all good. I have a fucking next to no introduction for you, Sophia. I didn't know if you were gonna be able to make it or not, but
yeah,
you're Jesus, dude. You're intense. You had a show on the MCSC network. I don't know if you're still. I don't think you're still with them anymore. I don't know.
No, I'm not. No.
But you fucking kicked the door open on the interwebs and you let people know what you thought, and that is an incredible fucking thing. I enjoy your perspective and your takes, and I'm glad that you can spend a little time on the show today. So how's it going, man? How you feeling?
I'm good. I was kind of sick. Well, I was really sick until yesterday, but now I'm well. So now I'm back in it. So I'm excited.
I thought while you were here, we could maybe go over the latest WikiLeaks drop on the OPCW report, get away from the U.S. police state, kind of take a look at the global U.S. police state, as it were, or at least the 100% control of information that is the requisite for evil cabals of a small number of wealthy people who need influence. That's what they have to do, is control the flow of information, which is why we need an organization like WikiLeaks and people brave enough to go ahead and give them the data to publish so that people know what's going on. I saw you tag Tulsi Gabbard in a tweet saying, hey, this 100% vindicates you. Maybe you should talk about it. And I haven't really seen her mention, even the one time Tucker Carlson brought it up on his show. I haven't really seen her call attention to the reality that these reports were clearly forged. Or clearly fucking, delivered with multiple redactions in order to steer the conversation in a way that benefited Empire and resulted in Syrian lives lost and multiple military strikes that Trump called for. The UK joined in. Let's talk about that for a second, by all means, and I'll go and pull it up.
I mean, I think, I know that she's running a campaign. This is specifically geared to the part about me addressing the fact that she's been silent on the drops and hasn't been paying attention, I guess, to them. But these completely vindicate all the smears that, they've been, launching at her, including the Assad apologist smear. She's been relentlessly smeared for the past, at least 2 years with this, maybe a little bit more. And this is, the opportunity for her to speak out and address what WikiLeaks revealed in these drops. And, she can use her platform to educate her followers and also, shift that Overton window, because there's no other candidate that's going to actually speak out about these reports. They're going to continue to believe, the same narrative, which is, Assad gasses his own people. He's a brutal dictator. Therefore, we should overthrow him.
According to Bernie Sanders, he's a war criminal. Misty, on Twitter, fucking found that gem. And put it out there. But yeah, there's multiple tweets of Bernie Sanders agreeing with not only the OPCW report, but with Donald Trump's military fucking philosophy when it comes to how the U.S. needs to respond to this. And it would be a perfect opportunity for any candidate, even fucking Donald Trump, to come out and be like, yeah, so turns out that wasn't accurate. Whoops. Our bad. Barack Obama was able to settle the entire fucking torture program by going, we tortured some folks. And I'm gonna go ahead and close that chapter. And like, that was it. That was the entire fucking fallout for decades of fucking torturing people in the name of fucking freedom and democracy. Donald Trump could make an issue out of this. Tulsi Gabbard should be making an issue out of this, and people should recognize that Bernie Sanders calling Bashar al-Assad a dictator and calling him out specifically for information in a fraudulent OPCW report shines a light on how easily he's led by the national security state.
Yeah, I mean, like, and just in general, even people in independent media who, like Jimmy Dore, he was also smeared, because it sounds like you're some kind of, genocide denier, that you're some conspiracy theorist, when the reality is that those people that were pushing that conspiracy theory, those are the real frauds, and the people who are deliberately trying to, misinform the public. It's not people who are actually questioning what the government tells them. So
right,
it's really disappointing. And
is a group of people acting in secret in order to influence or control events. That's what it is, and that is exactly what happened. That's exactly how it bore out throughout the course of the. You can see it. You can literally read it for your own eyes on WikiLeaks. What happened to the information that was gathered during the deployments of these inspectors, to the actual delivery of the fucking lack of information. It is something that you should view with your own eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the WikiLeaks on it, and we can.
Yeah, I also thought it was disturbing too how even independent media, or supposedly independent media, barely covered the recent drop. Not this one, of course, but the one from, I think that was like a month ago. Maybe a little bit more. But it was really disappointing to see that silence from them. I don't know what, a lot of these people had at least been skeptical of, that narrative, but they were also silent, besides the mainstream media, besides Tucker Carlson of all people, who's telling the truth about that.
So look, and I'm not a fan of Tucker Carlson. I've gone to a couple of different fairly vulgar links to show my general distaste for Tucker Carlson. But that doesn't take away from the fact that his show was the only show in mainstream media to even mention this. If you go to WikiLeaks right now, this is under DG Memo number 1, sent to the Director General of the OPCW, and it's from one of the now 2 whistleblowers, and I want to highlight in particular a couple of things. That's right. My reasons for doing this are twofold: to ensure that this situation is known at the highest levels. This is a memo that was sent through proper channels right after the first leak came out in May on the redactions of the OPCW report. to ensure that this situation is known at the highest levels, as there are about 20 inspectors who have expressed their concern over the current situation. Now, that's 20 different individuals that work, if not directly for the OPCW, report to the OPCW. That's a lot of fucking raised eyebrows. And then number 2, to identify the best way to resolve the situation in a way that does not negatively impact on the credibility and integrity of the, look, this, is what I want you guys to kind of take away from it, where he describes this, number 6 and number 7. The FFM report does not reflect the views of all the team members that deployed to Duma. Only one FFM member, a paramedic of the so-called FFM core team, was in Duma. The report was written by this core team, thus by people who had only operated in Country X. And that is what he's saying right there. And I'll take it off of the share screen here so we can talk about it. But what he's saying is that one person out of the entire team that wrote the report had actually been in Duma, and that one person was a paramedic, not a chemist, not a forensic investigator, not not anyone with the skills to determine whether or not this was a chlorine gas attack, where it came from, none of that shit. And that's not a knock on paramedics. Like, y'all do God's work. You do. Thank you for saving people when you save people. Like, that's, but that doesn't qualify you to determine whether or not chemical weapons were fired by Bashar al-Assad. It doesn't. And knowing that delegitimizes further so much of the report, not just in Duma, but whatever the OPCW has said for the last however many years.
Yeah, I mean, even a supposedly unbiased organization that just cares about the facts, and, even they have that, it's not maybe that they have a bias necessarily, but that they can capitulate to whatever, Western governments, especially the US, is trying to get them. Because the whole point of these drops were to show that the US was influencing the decision here, and it wasn't just like an objective analysis. It was that they were working backwards from their conclusion that it was the Assad government, and they as a result, they omitted a lot of information, and that they deliberately, left it out. And
we had already engaged in airstrikes before the report came out. Like it wasn't even the report. What they had to do, because we had already committed a war crime in response to this, was make the result appear to be in line with events that had already taken place. Now that does require a fuck ton of omission, but it also requires pliable employees. And that's where I have to give all the credit in the world to the growing number of people involved in this who are coming forward and saying, look, no, this was not done in our name. We tried to present, all of the available information, and the people above us not only ignored this information, they redacted or omitted this information, and they're not working for the truth. They're working for intelligence agencies or governments, specifically government agendas. And it just, man, like I'm forever grateful for WikiLeaks, and incredibly happy that they're still going strong while Julian Assange sits in Belmarsh, due for another video link hearing on the 19th, immediately after that, he should be testifying against UC Global, the Spanish security company who spied on him relentlessly while he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, provided a live feed to the women's bathroom to the CIA, and everyone knows about it. There's a trial going on. Julian Assange has been allowed to testify at this trial. U.S. media coverage, zero. Us, me, this show, the Free Assange Vigil, a couple of people on Twitter, you, that's like it, dude. Like we're the media on this, and that is fucking insane to me.
Yeah, I think the worst part about the whole, what's going on with Assange too, in terms of media coverage, is even independent media is silent on it. Or they're, when they're vocal about it, they kind of throw in the smears about Assange in their coverage of it, which is just devastating. And it just goes against what the concept of independent media is supposed to be. You're not supposed to be repeating CIA talking points, and you're supposed to be questioning those kinds of things, not just regurgitating them.
I couldn't agree with you more on that, and I make a point on this show to draw a distinction between truly independent media and organizations and people, broadcasters, YouTubers, bloggers, that call themselves independent media, but their entire show is, here's a presidential horse race, or here's this mainstream. They base their content on mainstream media articles. And if you're going to do that, that's admitting up front that you're playing their game to deliver information, and it just it doesn't sit right with me, Sophia. It doesn't. Like I won't do it here on Slow News Day. I will go directly to the documents themselves, or I will go to an independent media source like Mint Press News or Consortium, or like some of the actual genuinely independent outlets out there. And if I can, I'll bring on the person that wrote the fucking article, and let them talk about it. Have a number of fantastic interviews with Whitney Webb, just for the sole reason that I don't want to use, national security influenced media outlets for the baseline content of my material. You're about to say something else too, and I totally cut you off. But I do think it's important to drive that distinction home, that there's a difference between independent media and people who exist as commenters, I guess, or influencers or whatever, who still operate on all of those CIA talking points, all of those mainstream framing of every issue. It drives me fucking nuts. And one of the worst of those people, and I've seen the chat go nuts about it, is on Jimmy Dore's show right now. Fuck Cenk Uygur with this goddamn...
Yeah, I was just watching that. Yeah, it was really insufferable, unfortunately.
I made a promise to my audience yesterday that I would never subject them to a moment of Cenk Uygur trying to, make his case on this show. And look, dude, I understand why Jimmy gives the guy a pass. The guy allowed Jimmy to say whatever he wanted, to do whatever he wanted on his already established network, and he did it for a number of years, even though Jimmy was paying him for the privilege of being on his network. Jimmy is going to have some loyalty there. Like, when you're raised in the Midwest and raised religious, like, that's a lot of fucking shit to shake off as an adult, and a lot of the loyalty aspect is going to stick around. That doesn't mean he's not going to take a shot at Cenk, for getting Russiagate wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that during the live interview.
Yeah, I hope that people let me know what he said, because I think I watched like the first maybe 45 minutes, and it was just Cenk, puffing himself up, and Jimmy was just allowing him to say that without any pushback. And then he said that he was one of our most, progressive allies, and, he's going to get Medicare for all passed. And it's just like, Jimmy is one of the only, people with a big platform that actually has been covering Assange accurately. I think, Nico has too. But Jimmy has a very, very big audience compared to that of like Michael Brooks and Sam Cedar and
which, by the way, fuck Michael Brooks and
Talk.
Sam Cedar. Fuck both of them. Fuck them in the ear. Fuck them in the neck with a rusty screwdriver. Like, they're hurting everyone by the content that they put out. But no, you're right, and we've had Nico on the Free Assange vigils. You, in fact, are coming on Free Assange here shortly. And I've got about 7 minutes left before I gotta go, because we have a conference call before we go live with Action for Assange. But man, we should do this again. If there's anything in particular that you would like to impart to the folks that are watching, please do so. Please tell them where to find you and what's going on with the future of your broadcasts.
So if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, my username is Sofia, Sofia XZALDIVAR. And I also, because I was working, with the network, the Mikasa Sukasa network with Nico, now I'm doing my own thing and I have my own channel. So I'm trying to hit at least 1,000 subscribers, because you need, like, in order to get monetized and be able to, I think it's like you have to reach 1,000 to also stream.
No.
Or at least stream with super chats.
Yeah.
That might be, yeah. So in order to do that, I have to hit 1,000, and I'm like at 500 subscribers, and it's just my first name, my last name. So I'll be posting up more stuff there. But yeah, definitely, you're free to also come on. I'm obviously, my channel is smaller, but I probably have, different subscribers. So would love to have you on to be able to discuss different things. And yeah, because I really appreciate the work that you guys do with the Free Assange Vigil, and in general what you cover, because I think too much of the independent media, like you were saying, is covering just this election, and it's not just about this election. Like, there are other topics that need to be discussed that don't directly relate to electoral politics all the time, and yeah, that's
Well, kick ass, man. And yeah, for everyone watching right now, at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, the Free Assange Vigil is holding a special show today for Chelsea Manning, for her birthday is on the 17th. She'll be 32 years old, and she's spent most of her entire adult life in prison. For what? For fucking exposing war crimes. The people who are doing the war crimes, no prison, exonerated, left alone. The person who brought this information to light and all of the torture and hell that she's been through continues to not only be incarcerated, but also punitively fined for delivering that information. So we're going to have a special birthday vigil for Chelsea Manning. I hope that the people that are watching right now go over to the Action for Assange YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed to that channel, please do so. Please subscribe to Sofia's YouTube channel. Help her get up and over the 1,000 subscriber mark. Dude, from personal experience, I watched 15 to 20 people subscribe to my show. YouTube would count 1 or 2 of them. And this went on the entire time. Like, from the moment I had Cynthia McKinney on, my subscribers started getting fucked with. And it was a really, really long walk to 1,000, which I had probably hit multiple times along the way. But yes, if you're watching now, please go subscribe to Sofia's YouTube channel. Join all of us and Romplicone and Jason Burmis on Action for Assange from 3:30 on. I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to take. We've got a lot of good stuff queued up and ready to go for you. And yeah, this has been your Sunday Slow News Day. My name is Steve Poikinen. I do have a Patreon. It is patreon.com/Slow News Day. I don't have tiered donation or anything like that. My Patreon's been basically dead because I can't broadcast at home. I think I have that problem solved. I've got new equipment coming in the fucking mail. I should be able to have regular live streams from my house starting about Tuesday or Wednesday. And that's entirely because a number of people that enjoy the show have donated to it, that I'm able to do that. So thank you to everyone who has become a patron. I am now at a point where I can take what I get out of that and turn it into show upgrades, which is what I wanted to do the whole fucking time. So stoked for that. And yeah, fuck, I love all you. I will see hopefully all of you in about an hour, and good luck to us all.